Calvin T. Mann, leading EMIY, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIY TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Don't you remember you told me you love me, baby? You said you'll be coming back this way again, baby. Woo, I got love on my mind. I got love on my mind. I got my mind on my money, but I got love on my mind. And I have got to tell you how much I love what I do. I had some good days, and I had some bad days. But I got to tell you how much I love what I do. God is so good. How you doing, sister?
I'm doing great.
Good. Good to be in the building. I am just ecstatic about this subject, corrective and reflective parenting, and really that was kind of probably strategic because yesterday we had our closing ceremony, Monique. We closed our mentoring program after 14 weeks, and we had some conversation, and the boys had to perform, and young men understanding how important it is to complete something is a huge thing. And I cannot tell you how happy I am to conclude another day, right? It was another program. This is like our 10th one.
It's perfectly
right.
normal.
It's like our 10th one. And I wanted to, as I'm setting this thing up, I wanted, right? Came part, right? So I wanted to make sure that we were, on point. There were some areas that this session didn't offer, right? And it didn't offer. There were some things, so we couldn't get the jackets to our mentoring program. But more or less, we were able to do some things. As I set up this live, we were able to do some things that as we closed out the program, we was able to accomplish some things down the stretch, and there's some things that we would do different. But the corrective and the reflective parenting model for which we're talking about today is really about, as parents, do we really correct ourselves, right? Do we reflect on how we parent, and what does that look like? And I can honestly tell you, first of all, shout out to my man's White Party. Good Fathers Only is one of the sponsors to the White Party, my man John A. Entertainment. And so as I'm working this mojo in this room, I kind of think I can handle one of these things by myself, like topics and all, like I feel like I can, if I'm alone, I can handle it. Anyway, the point yesterday was about that we made with the young man, and the point. It was emotional for some, right? Our boys, I hug my boys. You in my mentoring program, everybody knows that I love these boys, right? So I hug my boys. My boys get hugs. They're told that they're loved. Like, we give them all that. Touch points, high fives, everything. Discipline, constructive discipline, right? But parenting is a huge piece to what this means, right? So the corrective and reflective parenting, as a parent, I often reflect on the areas for which I may have come up short. And then I try to correct them by sharing those things with, people that are brand new fathers, people who are seasoned fathers, and the families that's in our mentoring program. And so it's just an amazing thing to do 14 weeks, and you have your ups and your downs, your ebbs and your flows, right? And I'm often tired, frustrated, disappointed in society and people and the different backgrounds and the areas and the all the things that they want to do, and you see things out here, and we just study chugging along, doing the work to the tune of over 22,000 youth since 2007. We ain't let up, and we ain't had have the support that is needed to really scale up the way that we want to scale up, right? So we have a plan. And our plan for the boys, to smash suicide, that's one. But also we have a plan for the boys. And it's important that our boys become men, husbands, and fathers, right? That's needed. Everybody out here, you see the people out here, they're hungry. You see women out here who don't have access to a quality man, and a lot of times you're reaping what you have sown. And I say that to men and women. What have you sown that you can't find a good woman, and what have you sown that you can't find a good man? And usually when you go back to the reflective part, when you go back and you see what you have sown, how you've mistreated people, sometimes that's when you wake up and you recognize you're in your reaping season. I went through a reaping season myself where I had to lose everything. And to understand what that means, a lot of people don't understand what that means, because I'm conscious of my flaws and the things in the areas that I made mistakes in, and the people I hurt. I often tell Dave and my mentors and everybody else, I don't want to see another woman cry. Not at the expense of something that Calvin Mann has done, right? If you're crying, I want it to be a happy cry for the expense for what Calvin Mann has done in your life, not has done and taken away from your life. It's so important. And so that's why corrective and reflective parenting, hi out there, Kevin Fisher, Creole Cutie, and Peggy Mack on Instagram. So we want to make sure that this conversation is really, really important, because parents need to really reflect. Every child is different. We need to understand that every child is different. If you do not invest equally in the children, you will lose one. Now, I remember when I was coming up and my mom said, my mom used to, when my mom passed away, we was all standing in the room. This is how you know you've done a great job. We were all standing in the room after we buried my mom, and everybody I was her favorite. You know what I mean? Like, we made that comment. Yeah, I was her favorite. No, she said I was her favorite. And as everybody announced that they were the favorite, you realize that she parented us equally, knowing that it was something different in each and every one of us, and we are different. But in my next book called Parenting from Brokenness, it's a chapter on understanding where you mark your child at the time of the person that you are. So when I had my oldest boy, I was full-blown God, the whole nine. I spoke life into him. My oldest boy reflects all of that. All right. My second son, I was out here on some crazy stuff, and my second son you can't even catch him coming around, right? That's exactly what he's on. He don't trust nobody. That's exactly what I was on. When I had my last two kids, I was in a marriage again, and here I was in love, and both of my children were made in love, but they're both different. One, at the time my mom had passed away, my daughter could be point on to the attitude I had when my mom passed away. And my youngest boy, he got all of this good, all the good that I had practiced and all the things that I had to do. So I remember just reflecting on my parenting style and how that makes a difference. But I was able to correct some things in my life. So what was one of my corrective measures? I tell people this all the time. If you're starting to date, and you see yourself getting ready to get into a serious relationship, one of the first things you have to do is you have to close every door that your foot is in. So you have to pull your foot out of the side piece door. You got to pull your foot out of the plumber door. You got to pull your foot out of the booty call door. You got to pull your feet out of those doors and shut them. So once you shut those doors, now all of a sudden you will be surrounded in a circle for what God has been trying to get to you in the first place. Because your feet are not open, the door is not open, so foolishness cannot come into your life from those things. Right? So now I've shut these doors. The only person isolated in that room is me and God. That's it. So whatever I need, I know God can make it happen. If the right door is open, something gonna blow out of it. Usually it'll be me. Right? But if it's closed, and God is standing there protecting me and I'm isolated from all the foolishness, that's how in the last, since the last 18 years, I've gone through my reaping season. I shut those doors. And I am as happy as I've ever been. I am proud of my children. I am proud of what I have. God has turned me into. And so it's because those doors have been shut. The other thing is I reflect on making it known that I don't use the N-word. So I'm very careful about my words. That is not the type of people that I draw into my life. So my words bring in people that is quality. So as a parent, here's another method that I could correct. My kids have never gotten in the car, right? And I was blowing weed. Never. My children cannot tell you. Not one time. They have no memory of me ever using the N-word. All my children speak correct. They have no memory whatsoever. I'm still checking my kids not to use it, but they have no memory. My youngest son, he don't use it. That is where I corrected myself and have become reflective in my parenting. And that was what is so important to me, is that I become a better image of myself so they can see that image. And so when they decide to parent as they are in parenting, that at least they get 5 things, maybe 5 things from me. You know, maybe they get 5 things from me. 1, they don't use the N-word. 2, they don't call their friends the N-word. 3, they not getting high in the car with the kids. 4, they not getting blow with the kids at all. 5, you know, that they are involved and they're speaking correct English and they're teaching them how to read, because I taught all my children how to read. I think that is important as I reflect in my corrective parenting, as this subject has taken on a whole new jam, right? So, we got some company, Michelle, Monique, we got some company in here. I don't know who this person, oh. It's Heather Rue, Het Rue is in the building.
Yes,
Okay. Well, join us. Join us as we have this beautiful conversation about corrective and reflective parenting.
Absolutely. I think it's an important conversation to have. I kind of woke up this morning, I think, being corrected as well. But the insight that was given to me was it's important for us as parents to remember that we're also people, to also remember that our children are people, those same people who we're trying to correct, that there's always in correction, there's always something not just for the person that you're helping to correct, but for you too. And sometimes we miss the lesson and we excuse or absolve ourselves from the same correction because we're an adult. So we use that a lot. I'm the parent, you're the child. When often our children get that behavior directly from us. Sometimes they even get it from their environment. And as parents, we need to be aware of that as well. And so, and not to disregard the fact that you are the adult, not to disregard the fact that you are the parent, but also to make sure that you're reflecting on what you're saying, because most times when we're correcting or we're sharing lessons or when we are admonishing someone else, it's the very things that we're doing. It may not be in the exact same way, but we may cause somebody else to feel the same way that we're causing our child to feel when we're correcting them. So I think that was part of the lesson that was in it for me this morning and my prayer and meditation, because I'm always asking God, my source, to show me my stuff, especially when I'm upset about working with a teenage son, working with your mate. I always say, and for my mate, and you guys know, you probably have heard me say this 1,000 times, I say, God, get your boy, show me my stuff. Because I know it's not just one-sided. It is never just the other person. Because that means if you are always thinking it's just the other person, and this is the same thing in correcting, when you think it's only that person, then you're missing the lesson and the blessing in it for you. Because correction is self-correct as well. And so, we'll use the excuse, well, I'm the weaker of the gender. We might use I'm younger or I'm older, or your title entitles you to a pass on the behavior that we're trying to correct. Well, I did it because I'm an adult, and I hear this a lot with parents in their are engaging in smoking marijuana around their children. Well, I'm the grown up, I'm the adult. Yes, and if your child, and then you turn around and your child is smoking or vaping or smoking cigarettes, you want to correct them. Or if they're drinking alcohol, you want to correct them because you don't see the same thing. You take the advantage of I'm an adult. But I'm an adult. And so that's kind of where we have to do a little bit more reflection. I'm an adult that does this in front of my child who's now doing it, and I'm trying to correct them, but I'm not correcting myself. Part of that is self-regulation. So when you get into the mindset and the thought of self-regulation, that means being able to be accountable for what you do, and then to kind of do some things about that as well. And so I think it's an important life lesson for parents that sometimes what we see in our children is reflecting back on us. So it actually, I'm saying mirror reflection at this point. And then the second part of that is self-reflection, so that you can look at whatever that activity is or situation or circumstance or behavior is with a little bit more objectivity and say, where am I doing this in my life? How am I showing up in the life of my child? What are they seeing me do that's causing them to continue the same behavior? Because, and we've talked about this on our show before, about how things are recorded on your DNA, your choices, your behavior, your decisions at that time in your life that then are being recorded in the life of your child. And so, if you find yourself at the same age that you're trying to correct your child, especially when you're teenagers, when we were feeling that sense of independence and our sense of, showing our strength and showing how smart we are, or showing how competent and responsible we were as teenagers. We did that. Well, I know I did. I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I know I did. But I thought, as a teenager, I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I had made enough good decisions to be able to make, bigger decisions. And so without proper guidance and without proper understanding and proper reflection, I thought that, I was doing everything I was supposed to do, I could do, and I tested those boundaries. And so, this is my reflection that right now my son he's testing his boundaries.
Confessions.
Just like I did when I was a teenager, testing that boundary. Same age, 15 going on 16, thinking I know everything. And my parents, they gave me a little bit of room. They gave me a little bit of room to try to make those decisions, but it still required their wise counsel. It still required their permission. It still required their. It still required their approval and their guidance. And so, as a parent, this is just our comeuppance. I think a lot of ways being a parent is to remember when. And some of the gaps in the decision making, we're trying to help to fill in some of those gaps for our kids. The same gaps that we may have experienced, trying to fill those things in. So this idea of corrective parenting is definitely important. It is definitely a part of the decision making. It is part of our experiences to try to help our children not make the same choices, whether those were positive or negative choices. It does matter. But we're trying to guide them so that they can be better than we were. And so reflecting on that, I think, is important.
These are my confessions. Hey, I heard Usher.
Do not encourage him, Monique. Do not encourage him, Monique.
Usher. Y'all hear Usher? I hear Usher. So it's funny that we are able, because you're at a mature state, you're able to reflect and catch yourself. Because you are looking to self-improve, you're able to catch yourself and reflect with yourself. Because you are looking to achieve goals, you're able to correct yourself and reflect yourself. God is in all of that, and it's so important that we understand that. If I'm trying to, do you have any regrets? Yeah, well, I got a lot of regrets, right? But what I do have is I got a lot of reflection to correct my regrets.
Yes, absolutely.
To move by my regrets. A lot of times we don't understand how important those things really is, what they really are to the process, as you're able to see yourself, as she so beautifully confessed, she was in here snitching on herself on it, right? So as you're able to see yourself, right, in these things, it's just one step toward improvement. That's it, right? As soon as I recognize my part, I have a choice. There are a lot of times I have egg on my face because as a male, I can snap real quick, right? And I can become protective about my maledom, my respect level, and I can become, but a lot of times you have to remember that people are not looking to reflect. They're looking to disrespect. They're looking to understand. And sometimes how we respond to those things come from us not being able to reflect, to answer or respond correctly. Let me reflect on something before I make the wrong statement and a correction, because I've had to come behind and say, you know what, baby, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I had that all wrong. I was in the wrong space. I've been able to listen better, right? All of that comes with maturity and understanding, but it also comes from your words, how you are applying your words in your life, which is what I was sharing so eloquently with the people on Instagram, right? I'm sharing so eloquently that it's so important that our words reflect our friendships. Our words reflect our drive. Our words reflect the circle. Our words reflect our families. Our words reflect our children. But more importantly, our words reflect the treatment that we give and receive. It is in our words that we can be lost, right? And it's the choice of words. And so being able to correct yourself and reflect upon yourself is literally a huge thing. And people don't understand that this self-change, a shift, is even better for your household, right? Because when you walk into the household and you got all these beautiful, loving words, your home doesn't seem so dark. The furniture doesn't seem so dirty. Your carpet doesn't have so many pieces of lint in your carpet. It's like these things have moved because your words has changed your entire process. So being corrective and reflective is in your words. Can I get an amen?
And just to take that a step further, and I'm going to give you some signs that there is a need for self-correction and self-reflection. And so this is one of the signs that certain things have gotten to a point where change is necessary. Some of us can do it naturally, but some of us need to know that there are those signposts ahead that help us to recognize when a shift is necessary, especially in your home. So I'm going to ask you to just take a deep breath with me, because this one is a hard one to swallow for a lot of us. The first thing that I want you to look for when you are at a critical step and a critical stage in your personal world, I want you to look in every corner start with your bedroom. Let's start with your bedroom. Look in every corner of your bedroom. If there are things in every corner of your bedroom, it is we call it clutter too, but I also recognize this is a spirit. This is a spirit of clutter. It starts to clutter your mind and your thoughts and your ideas and your positive energy, and it drains it and it pulls it all into the corners of your room. So if it's a pile of clothes here, if it's a pile of books, it doesn't matter what it is in those four corners. When all four corners get full, then that means it's also reflecting back to you that there is a state of fullness that needs to be addressed. Like you have reached your capacity to be able to move and maneuver. And so that's mentally and that's physically. It shows up physically first. And so you'll start feeling it. You start feeling overwhelmed. You start feeling a sense of feeling or moving into a depressive state. It will seem like it's everything else, but I'm going to encourage you to check those spaces first. Check those spaces first. Look at what is in those corners, whether it's trash, whether it's clothes, whether it's books, whatever it is. Go back and check it. And the second thing you need to do is pull it out of those corners. And it also will pull it out of those corners of your mind and your thoughts as well. It starts to help you to start to take that deep breath in, like, I'm able to do something now. It does take a lot of courage for people to do it, and it's not an easy space to be in. I want to assure you that the action that you take starts to help you to break up that sense of being overwhelmed, that sense of slipping into a deeper depression. So I want you to start there, because it'll open you up to be more reflective as well, and you don't feel so overwhelmed. So first, start in your corners. I'm saying in your room, your bedroom. That is if that's the place where you sleep and wake up every day. Then I need for you to move into your living spaces. I need for you to look in your living rooms. I need for you to look in your kitchen. And these are places where it can easily be overwhelming. And it's almost like no matter how hard you try, it keeps going back to that space. So I need for you to make sure also, and I'm going to ask you to consider also to start pulling those things out of the corner. And it all has to come out of every corner. But once you get it out of the corner, then one pile at a time. Because you'll see that those things that are in the center of your floor are also going to be a reflection of whatever troubles that may be ailing you too. So start there, and then that's where we can start to do that maturity and that correction through our reflectiveness, reflecting on what's there, how it got there, and the fact that you don't want it there any longer. You don't want to feel like this anymore because it almost feels like you don't have enough space. You can always create enough space. But you also have to start that process with looking at the space that you're already occupying. That's mental space, that's physical space, that's spiritual space. So this is just a tool to help you kind of start moving and shaking off some things so that you're able to see a little more clearly and not feel so overwhelmed.
So the analogy made earlier today was closing them doors before you got in, right? Mm-hmm. To show you how what you're doing and how we're synergizing on one page, right? Because when you pull all that stuff out, things flow. When you close all them doors, things flow. And it's so important, again, to understand what that looks like and feels like. Part of your frustration, and we've given this to the parents, and I'm sure we're going to have to do it again. It's going to be a mainstay in our program. But just as I was talking about the very words and she's talking about the flow, what is the positive affirmation for your home? Are you speaking life over your doorway? Are you speaking life into the doorway? Are you speaking life over the roof of your home, right? What is being corrective and reflective? Corrective is you purchase a home today. Someone should come pray for the home.
For sure.
That because you don't know what types of spirits or whatever is in that home. So you can have someone come pray for the home. All right, before you occupy. And even if you occupy, you're going to have to at some point pray for that home. Right? Protect yourself. The second process is you have to name that home. A lot of times we name our cars. What name do we give our cars? In the movie, what was the movie? Christine, where he named the car Christine and how evil Christine was and the spirit they got on him. Now, of course, it was another knock on women, which was bad, but the car was named Christine. We often name our cars after women. Men do. This is my boo. This is Betty. This is whatever. But then we don't treat it with the same kindness that we have for our... So the affirmation doesn't match the action. So when you... In our house, it's called the House of Ken. There's a lot going on. Now, we're up against a lot. All right? And we're constantly... Right now, we are shaping a 15, soon to be 16-year-old. It's difficult. It's not an easy task because, one, you want to lay the hands of my mama and my daddy on them, right? And then on the other end, you got so much love for them, but you're teaching them, and you have to have patience in teaching them and understanding that that's not the case, that you need to do that all the time. There are times and place for that. I'm a firm believer in that, but when you are teaching them, it's different. And so again, what is corrective? Corrective has to be to make sure that you don't go down row G. We want you to go straight down row B. Because if you go too far to the right and go down row G, over there is a lot of problems, right? If you just stay straight and focused, you never have to open up row G's door, which is my point about the words and how you choose them and how reflective of a parent you really want to be. Are you really analyzing yourself, saying that this is the very best I could be? Right? This is it. So I'm going to make the excuse or the excuses for certain behaviors, knowing that this is what, like, for real, the kids, they don't deserve a better shot, huh? Like, you just not going to be cooperative. You just not going. You gonna do what you want to do. Pride, and and we see that, and understanding that those things have to be broken down as to where those things come from. So again, here we are now. Corrective parenting is making sure that your son and your daughter knows how to read before the age of 5. That's corrective. Right? That's not repeating that I don't know how to read, so they don't know how to read. Right? I don't know math, so they don't. No, corrective is I'm going to make sure you know how to read. I'm going to make sure of that. But I got to challenge you in that process to be focused so I can move you. Once I see that you can focus, we can dump a whole lot more in. So I'm challenging you, right, for you to buy in, right? It's the same thing as she said about pulling the stuff out the corners of the home just so the energy can flow properly. I've seen and witnessed how energy can jump into your home and shift it immediately, right? So you got to be conscious because you believe in God. You got to be conscious of these things. So I'm saying all that to say that, in reflecting upon my parenting, as I said earlier, I've gotten that much better. But I do not handicap. And this is for every parent out there, right? If you do everything for these kids, you're handicapping them. They will not be active. They will not pursue these things the way that they need pursued. And just last week, as we were having a conversation, you're going to come to a space, as she said, where a sense of entitlement. That's not good, and it's really detrimental, right? So
yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was just thinking, what are some of the signs that to help us to make sure, or to show us or point us that maybe we are doing too much and not allowing them to do more. So here are a couple things. When your child has homework, they will only do the homework if you do it with them. That's one. And I mean, not even attempting to do it. Mom, it's time to do homework. And mom comes and sits next to you. And mom is leading you in the homework. That's just kind of one check-in. It's not that you don't assist your child, but you let them take the lead. So you tell them, go get started, just to kind of move them from the dependence on you associating homework with mom. So just to help that process, say, go ahead and do the first 3 problems, and then you show them to me. And then let them show them to you and explain, the process, or how did they come to that process. They should be doing more talking than you. And so in those situations, that's one identifier. And I'm saying mom and dads or grandma, because, grandmas will do it too. Because what happens is we'll find ourselves doing the homework for the child because we see it so easy. And then they'll, do the sad face and say, well, I don't know how to do it. And we'll explain it to the point where we lose our own patience. And then maybe say, okay, well, just put this answer. This is the right answer. And so definitely one of the important measures in parenting is a level of patience. It's a level of tolerance. And don't think I'm only speaking to you. I'm always speaking to myself first. And it's a space to be aware, just to be aware. Because we have set certain standards and expectations when we talk about that sense of entitlement, and that continues to grow into the teenage years. It continues to grow into the young adult years and things like that. And then you find that you have a 32-year-old still at home expecting that mom's going to make the breakfast and I'm going to save my money and buy my own house, which is great if that's an actual plan. when you don't see the evidence of that plan coming to fruition, if they're not in parent home buyer education classes and they say they're saving for a home, you might want to rethink that. Add some question, add some responsibility to those decisions, and always asking why. Because what we don't do is, by the time they get to being an adult, a responsible adult, they're still depending on their parents to make these decisions, the ones that they want the parents to make, or they want you to stay out of their decision making while they're still dependent on you. They don't want to have your voice in their decision making. They just want you to keep doing what you've always done. And so we want to make sure that we're helping to strengthen the next generation. And so we do that by recognizing and correcting our own behavior as parents, which may mean that you have to step back some. You have to, start to loosen that level of responsibility and put it back where it's due. And also in our correction, recognizing when we have gone too far and saying that these are the things that are the expectation as of today or as of a Monday. This is the expectation. If you're not working, you should be working. If you're not working, then you should be in school or pursuing some kind of career pathway. If you're not working, you should be starting a business. It should be some alternative standard that you set so that that level of correction can then help them with future corrections. They are less be likely to avoid adult decisions and adult responsibility when we step back and correct ourselves from doing it all for them.
So in that same token, as you're understanding, a lot of you need to understand that the conversation that you have for your man is supposed to be for your son. The things that you do for your son, you were supposed to do for your man, right? And that is such an important thing, because your conversation for your son is, oh, you're amazing, you're great, you all those things. But your man, that's not the case. You don't tell him those things, right? Which creates a even bigger dynamic. And so with your son, your man is sitting back watching you wait on your son while he goes last. If he goes last, your man is sitting there going, wow, look at it. She waited on her son hand and foot. She waited on her kids. Well, these are my kids. That's a syndrome. We are living in one of the most highly impactful syndrome where you are not balanced. Then everything capitalized on you not being balanced. So then when the man, people always talking about when the man recognizes or feels as if though he is not the one that's valued, you'll hear him say, you only care about your son. You'll see the skits on comedy where the son is still in the house and the mom and the son comes out and sits on it. You'll see the things that you have produced because, again, it's your words. It is in your words. How you take it. You get a man in your life or you get a woman into your life and you don't see a reason to care for them. Why start? Right? And I understand that there are some dynamics there which are around mental health because we're always seeking a certain thing. But when it comes to the children must be taught. This is not a friendship thing. They must be taught. They must be self-sufficient. And I'm going to go back to my mom and daddy. They didn't care if we didn't like them. My mama ain't talked to me for a year over a banana split on Mother's Day. She didn't care nothing about if you liked her or not, right? She did her job, right? Which was prepare us to be out here, be self-sufficient, and be moving in the process of this, creating a good human being. If you think that the world is going to be sweet to your son or your daughter like you're sweet to your son or your daughter, you got things messed up. So as parents, we need to understand that there's a certain order When we were coming up, it was stay out of grown folks' business. Today, you on Instagram, it's mama, daughter, son. Like, we on Instagram hosting skits together and everything. But I guarantee you, when they get off there, there's a certain amount of disrespect that come into play. Now y'all beefing. You see? Because you need to stay out of grown folks' business. It's okay. I watched my brother take his son, and they went to Vegas with him. His son ain't crossing no borders. He was with his daddy. His daddy done showed up in the best way possible. He is going to carry himself the best way possible. There's no interruption in that, right? We have an expectation. We think that, as I said yesterday, mama tired. She tired. I mean, you done rode her like an old mule. You done rode her till she can't. She don't want to go no more. She stressed out. She feeling the pressure. She got headaches. She got her feet hurt. Her back hurt. Her wasn't because she trying to carry something that she not supposed to carry alone, and the kids is making it even worse. And then they, I like to, thank my mama. You didn't abuse your mama. You might as well thank her. That's the least you can do, because you done wore out your welcome. And thinking that in that process, what's going to happen is the next person or the woman in your life is not going to fulfill those things. So there's no sense of reality if we're raising our children to not be accountable and to only count on you. That's very dangerous and harmful. So we got to understand as parents, in being corrective and being reflective, right? Stop, pause at the end of the day, and think back to all the interactions with your kids throughout the day. And be grateful that you're teaching them, not giving them everything. Teaching them is the most important thing a parent can do for their children.
I do agree with that, Calvin. The way that we love, the quality of how we love, at the core of that needs to be the role of what parenting is supposed to be. It is supposed to be guidance. It is supposed to be wisdom. It is supposed to be a safe place to grow our children and grow them into adults, because we need them to grow into adults. That doesn't mean that they don't get to be 10-year-olds. 10-year-olds should be 10-year-olds. Appropriate activity, appropriate environments. We need to make sure that as parents, part of the corrective nature is making sure that the environment that they are in, our children are in, is a safe and healthy one. And sometimes we have to curb our own behavior. We have to correct our own behavior to ensure that that is what we are providing for our children. Because outside of being an individual, you have been entrusted with a role of parent. You've been entrusted with the role of mother or father. You've been entrusted with the role of grandparent. And those really have been anchors in the community of family. Those roles are very important that are being that we're being asked to play. But there is a blessing in that role. There is a blessing in bringing a new life into the world or adding to your family. And I heard it said today that one of the mothers called it the tribe. Adding to your tribe, honoring your tribe through your own behavior, through correcting when you're wrong, apologizing when you're wrong. And I don't think as parents, sometimes we don't apologize when we're wrong or when we have, I kind of want to say overstepped for our children. But if we're not able to apologize, we're not teaching our children to apologize either. So we have to be mindful that correction is a way to build and grow our children, to build and grow an expectation, to build and grow our tribe, our community, our families. We have to have some things in place that help direct us so that we can be the best that we can be. Correction has to be one of them, and not always being the one that is correcting, but also be able to receive the correction as well. And sometimes it may not come from your parent. It may come from your child. They may ask why. And they may want to know why you're telling me not to do it, but you do it. You're telling me not to say this, but you say it. And our answer cannot always be because I'm an adult. It really needs to be based on the values that we set and that we are expecting our children to fulfill and live. And so, I do love the fact that having a value or an affirmation over your home, that's setting an expectation. And the fact that I love the house of can, because it also, I'm saying can do, we can, all of how we use that together is going to be a powerful message that can be repeated, that can be honored, that can be done to make sure that people in our family know that we can do what we put our minds to. We can continue to succeed. We can continue to build. I can, you can. To have that as an affirmation is powerful because it helps to remove some of those limitations that maybe the world might put on you. You can't create the next cell phone. The world will tell you what you can't do. But when you have that as a value in your home, it expresses what you can do. It affirms that in you. And we need to make sure that we're affirming those positive values in our children. That's another way to correct. We can correct behaviors of our past. We can correct behaviors passed from generation by shifting that mindset and planting that seed and nurturing that seed and cultivating that seed of whatever is the opposite of what you saw in your family that no longer serves you or your family. So now maybe generational wealth serves your family better than generational poverty. So if that's the case, what are you doing to affirm that in your home? What are you doing to affirm that in your children? How are you correcting that activity so that it is different as it moves forward? I think those are really important cues to take along with you as you are listening to this show today.
Dope. You are dope. Tell everybody where they can get to you at.
Sure. You can always reach out to me at yourinspiredjourney.com. That's inspired with a D. You can reach out to me by phone at 313-759-7855. That's 759-7855. Or you can find me on social media, or you can Google me. Just don't instant message me.
Right. You can meet us here every Monday at 4 p.m. with solutions and conversations that move on Put Your Family First podcast every 4 p.m. right here on Podcastic. Get yourself in a position to learn some new things about family, and all the information that we research, we make sure that we're bringing you new information about family and ways to see your family, right? The object of today's conversation, corrective and reflective, is just that. If you Google corrective, right, fixing a mistake. If you look at reflective, looking back to see where you made a mistake, right? So if you get these definitions together and understand that you have the ability to put your children in a much better place instead of have them head toward the worst. You are not helpless. You don't have to be helpless, and you're not a victim. The only victim is the one that you create in your mind. If that is you, get that fixed. I am not playing the victim. Have not, will not participate in it. But what I will say is, at any given point in time, if you want to shift and make the right move, just remember, make sure you visit EMIWorld.com. Come back next Monday for the Put Your Family First podcast. Did I say that right? The podcast and come get us some. If you're interested in being interviewed and you got some parenting information that you'd like to share with the people about quality parenting or improving the lives of boys and families, inboxes on Instagram, inboxes on Facebook, inboxes on podcasts. Send us a message at emmyworld.com. We got you. We really appreciate you. And remember, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, put your family first.